who is a Macmillan Deputy Lead uh, Cancer Nurse. And she's going to be talking about the role that carers play in supporting cancer patients. And then after about 20 minutes, we'll have a lived experience member of the public, Ray Anderson, who will share his personal experiences. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Louise. Welcome.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Belle. I'm just going to share my slides and fingers crossed that will work. Hopefully everybody can see that. I can't see all of you when I'm talking, but hopefully you can see my slides. Lovely. Any problems, let me know. So as Belle said, I'm Louise Smith. I'm one of the lead cancer nurses at Ipswich and Colchester hospitals, and I've been a nurse for 36 years. I can hardly believe how time's flown, and 30 of those have been working as a cancer nurse. And it's a role that I love and consider a huge privilege, mainly because of the wonderful patients and families that I meet in the course of my work. I'm married to Simon, who's a radiologist specialising in cancer imaging. We like to keep it in the family, and we have 3 lovely grown-up daughters. See if I can move my slides on. That might be a problem. There we go. Can you see the next slide? In January 24, I was on the train travelling home from a meeting in London when I got a call from Simon's colleagues at the hospital. He didn't seem himself and they were worried about him. Could I get there as soon as possible? That was the worst train journey ever, worrying about what was wrong. But Simon was fit and healthy. Surely this couldn't be anything sinister. When I finally arrived, there was an ambulance outside the department and Simon was being wheeled out on a trolley, intubated and looking very unwell. He'd had a seizure and was on his way to A&E. After a week in ITU and numerous investigations, he was diagnosed with a stage 4 brain tumour at the age of 54, and our world was turned upside down. He was told his prognosis was 12 months, but that a small number of people did do better on treatment. It was from that moment on that my journey as a carer began. So who is considered a carer? There are approximately 5.4 million people in England who provide unpaid care for a friend or family member. People who need help because of their illness, frailty or disability, and who would find it difficult to cope without their help. A large proportion of this number are carers for people with cancer. Carers make a major and significant contribution to society. Estimates show that the care provided by family and friends is equivalent to £119 billion every year. So for any of you that are carers, don't ever underestimate the really valuable role that you play in caring for the people that you love. Many carers don't see themselves as carers or find it difficult to see their caring role as separate from the relationship they have with the person they're caring for, whether that be as a parent, a child, sibling, partner or friend. NHS England reports that it takes on average 2 years before a carer acknowledges their role as a carer. Most of us will have caring responsibilities at some time in our lives. We're all living longer, and the challenges we face can come in many forms. We may be juggling our caring responsibilities with work, like Simon and I, study or other family commitments, and the responsibilities that carers provide varies widely, ranging from everyday tasks, personal care, to emotional support and managing symptoms. Many carers don't tell relatives, friends, work colleagues or health professionals about their responsibilities. Why is that? Perhaps it's a fear of separation, guilt, pride or other reasons. This can mean that being in a caring role can be lonely and isolating, and often can have an adverse impact on both the physical and mental well-being of the carer, meaning that they find it increasingly difficult to undertake their caring role effectively. I don't say this to be alarmist, but simply to highlight the adverse effect that this level of care can take on your health and your own quality of life, and to share with you the wide variety of support and services that are available across our network for you to connect with, or equally to share with people you know in a caring role so that they don't feel isolated and vulnerable. Even as a nurse with many years' experience, I hadn't realised the level of support I would need as a carer, or indeed the breadth and variety of support available. At the moment, in my caring role, I support Simon's emotional well-being as much as I can, help him manage the symptoms and side effects caused by his ongoing treatment. And as he's no longer able to drive, much to his horror, take him everywhere he needs to go. I have become a much better driver and I don't brake as late as I used to. I've also taken responsibility for much of our household management, a job Simon would once have embraced but no longer has the energy for. Simon decided to brave the shave before his surgery, and because of our close links with cancer services, as a family, we found it really helpful to raise money for our Cancer Wellbeing Centre and more recently the Brain Tumour Charity. And this is us in the centre with Simon having his head shaved. I recognise that every carer's role and responsibilities will be different and that these can change from day to day, but I wanted to share some of the things that have helped me. So perhaps a few top tips, and I know that Ray will talk very knowledgeably and cover some more useful tips later on. So looking after you is really important. It was quite startling to me when someone first asked, "Never mind about Simon, how are you? This must be incredibly difficult for you and the girls." Try and be open and honest with those that care about you. It's not a failure to admit that you're struggling. And be honest with your healthcare team about how this is affecting you. They can work with you to find the support, activities, and solutions that will support your well-being and quality of life so that you're able to function effectively and continue in your valuable role. Keeping everyone updated can be exhausting, but people care about you and they don't realize how many people are contacting you every day and the number of phone calls that you're getting. But they want to know what's happening with the diagnosis, treatment plan, and your general well-being. So be kind to yourself. Now, I engage the help of my daughters. Teenagers are fabulous with technology, and we set up a family and friends WhatsApp group where they could post updates and keep people in the know about how we were all and what was happening, and that was less exhausting. I realised fairly on that I couldn't rely on the healthcare system to tell me everything I needed to know. I had a responsibility to find out and ask for myself. Sometimes you have to be your own advocate. Your healthcare team, your friends and family don't always know what it is that you need. And I couldn't give you a better piece of advice than to contact your local Cancer Wellbeing and Information Centre. Now, I'm really lucky because I oversee our centres at Ipswich and Colchester hospitals, but I know that across our region, in every area, there is a similar service, and they are a fount of useful information and resources, and they've got time to sit down with you, have a cup of tea and a chat, or you can ring them or email them. So do have a look and see where the one closest to you is, and they'll be able to tell you what support and resources are available. Utilise the specialist knowledge your clinical team will have about the particular cancer that you're dealing with and the bespoke services available. Your clinical nurse specialist or key worker should be very knowledgeable and be able to help you to navigate this. And a good example of that was that we recently wanted to plan a short trip to France on Eurotunnel because we can't fly. And they were able to tell us the best insurance companies to approach. And I was amazed because when I'd done a Google search, I was looking at £2,500 for insurance, and we actually got insurance for a single trip for £160. So it just shows you where that specialist knowledge can really be invaluable. Look at the National Cancer Charities websites and the particular one for the cancer that you're dealing with. They have a huge amount of bespoke information and resources tailored to support you and your loved ones with that particular cancer. This might be their nurse-led helplines, patient forums, peer support groups, and many other valuable services. Connecting with local support can be extremely valuable, and there will be similar services near where you are. Services such as Suffolk Family Carers, Essex Carers Support, Carers Cambridge. When I was Googling, I was so thrilled to see that in every area there are support services for carers, and again, they have a wide range of services, from telephone support, befriending, all sorts of things, so well worth having a look. And they can provide advice, guidance, workshops, courses, and support for the whole family. I found the cancercare map website a really useful resource, and Jane has put all the links that I'm going to share at the end of my talk into the chat, and the talk will go up on the website after we finish this evening, so you'll be able to find those in either of those places if you want to take a look. But the cancercare map by postcode will tell you exactly what's available in your area, and it's got a huge amount of useful information and a section specifically on carers and support services. A few key things that helped me in my particular situation was being open and talking to my manager at work and having flexibility to work from home when I needed to. Establishing a routine that included exercise, which is so important for mental health. Getting out in the fresh air, getting a little bit out of breath and just enjoying, particularly at the moment, the lovely autumn weather and all the beautiful colours, smells and sounds. And a daily dog walk for me, listening to my audio book, with friends and family on hand if I need them to keep an eye on Simon has been, a great help to keep me chipper. And then a little bit further into my journey, I spoke to the Brain Tumour Charity and recognised that a weekly counselling session provided by them was an opportunity to share how I was feeling and thinking, and about how I might deal with what might happen in the future. And when things started to change, what would be my coping strategies and how would I deal with that? And that has been, extremely helpful. And despite the poor prognosis, for us as a family, making plans so that we've always got something to look forward to has been really important. I know that's not possible for everybody, but while we can, that's what we do. And we've had some wonderful adventures and experiences, all in this country. But, it's a great country, and we've probably explored more than we ever would if this hadn't happened to us. So Simon had surgery to remove most of the brain tumour in April last year, followed soon after by radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and he continues on a trio of chemotherapy and immunotherapy drugs. And despite some cancer progression, he's tolerating the treatment well, and he continues to work full time. He's amazing. We were thrilled to all be there to celebrate our middle daughter Lottie's wedding to Finn in May this year. I feel guilty now. I haven't put a photo of Finn on here, but never mind. We feel incredibly lucky that things are stable and we've had more time together as a family than was first predicted. And we're determined to live life to the full and squeeze as many memories and happy experiences as we can out of the time that we have left. I know that we wouldn't be well equipped to do that had we not had the wide range of carers, information and support that has helped us as a family navigate this situation. And my final slide is just some useful resources, some that I've talked about. So do take a look at the Cancer Care map. And as I mentioned, hopefully you will have your own cancer wellbeing and information centre in your area. Sometimes it's a Macmillan one, it might be another charity that oversees and runs it, but they are such a valuable resource. And these links here will take you onto our website. The top one is the Ipswich Cancer Wellbeing and Information Centre, and then below that Colchester. And it's just to give you an idea of what will be on their websites and what, a huge range of resources there are available. Even, how do I get somebody to help me look after my dog or walk my dog when I'm coming in for treatment? Financial support, so important, and a bit of a minefield if you haven't got help to navigate that. So the link to the Macmillan information about benefits and financial support. And then I've put the link to our Suffolk family carers. But as I said, have a search in your area, because when I had a look, there was something everywhere. So that's fabulous to see. And I know many patients find Age UK services really helpful. Again, there'll be a range of services and support in your area, such as befriending or groups or activities that you can link in with. And, I underestimated before I went through this personal experience how valuable that peer support can be, talking to other people in a similar situation who understand the challenges and how emotionally it can affect you. So you may not feel like you want to reach out, or that that's not for you, but you can link in with these services and support either by telephone or in person or by email. So thank you very much for listening. I've popped my email on the bottom, and genuinely, please do email me if you have any questions. That's part of my role. I'd love to hear from you. And as we said, all of this information will be on the Cancer Alliance website later. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Louise. That's really some great information that you've shared. And I think it's, many of us that have been through cancer, sometimes we don't know where to turn. And it's really good to have those useful tips. And like a personal experience, I think, sort of gives you, some good, advice as well. But thank you so much for sharing that. So now we are going over to Ray, who is going to share his personal experiences of caring for someone. Over to you, Ray.
Thank you very much. Although I was described as a member of the public,
Uh,
I should confess that I've been co-chair of the Alliance's Patient Partnership Group since 2020. So I know my way around the system, and that is important for a lot of people who are caring for someone with cancer. They don't. And for them, it's going to be much more baffling. But believe you me, it was no picnic for me either. Just to put it into context, my wife was having some difficulty. One of her arms was hurting and her back, and she wasn't sure what it was. But her GP sent her for a blood test and an ultrasound. The ultrasound was inconclusive, but the blood test showed signs of ascites, that is a development in the stomach or elsewhere, which could be a marker for cancer. And by the time she'd had a second blood test, she got an urgent suspected cancer referral, then still a 2-week wait. And she was diagnosed eventually with stage 4 stomach cancer, which had also been widespread across other organs, including her ovaries. That October 2022, she was given 2 options. She could go for 6 months of chemotherapy, or she could be discharged immediately into palliative care because it was never going to be cured. She opted for palliative care for the simple reason that in 2022, because of COVID restrictions, if she'd gone into chemotherapy, she would have been self-isolating for those 6 months. And after discussions with me and our family members, she opted for palliative care because, as she said, I want to live what is left of my life, which of course is very important. But then, obviously, on discharge from secondary care, she was passed back to the GP practice. And I have to say, one wonderful example, the GP practice does designated doctors. And once Maureen's designated doctor knew of her situation, she really kept an eye on us. And in fact, you may find this difficult to believe, but she actually made 2 house calls in the course of the illness. So that was brilliant. Maureen was also registered with a local day hospice, and they gave excellent support too, through first of all briefing us, but also sending people around to recommend and have carried out adaptations to the house to help Maureen get around, and eventually, as she got worse, the provision of a hospital bed, so because she would no longer manage stairs or anything like that. But at that stage, that was where we were. But because it's stomach cancer, the ascites develops and you get this gunk, which builds up in the stomach. So we knew eventually it would have to be drained. It took us actually 4 attempts before a permanent drain was successfully fitted. And that was due to poor communication between the practice, the GP practice, the cancer nurse specialists, and the various teams, the radiology team, and the gastroenterologists within the hospital. But eventually he had a drain, and while she was still mobile, she was able to go for treatment at a local treatment centre in the non-acute hospital. And that was fine for a while, but that only lasted, now I'm talking about starting in October 2023, that only lasted for about a month or so before she was unable even to do the short walk to get to the treatment centre. And so we then moved to the district nurses, which is another service, and they were very good, but they cannot all be briefed in advance on what to expect. So they would turn up and would say, here is the drain. Can you now drain the fluid from a stomach? How do I do that? So I wasn't allowed to operate the drain myself, but I was allowed to tell them how to do it, which is interesting, but there we are. The other thing, of course, at that time is that she needed to keep in touch with the hospital services. I had a very good relationship with the cancer nurse specialist team. There were 3 of them, and I had their direct phone number and could call them. But I think now we have moved on a bit, and for most of these services within the east of England, there are cancer care navigators, both in primary and secondary care, and they are if one of those is available, they are a better point of first contact. That is simply because it's their job to be first point of contact, whereas cancer nurse specialists have lots of skilled jobs to do around the wards and elsewhere. So if you have a choice, go for that. The draining carried on for a while, but then by February of 2024, and given that Maureen Ho was given a 6-month life expectancy, we're doing all right, she had to go back into hospital to have her stomach drained, and the drain flushed so that it would continue to work. Fortunately, that was successful, but because of the buildup of fluid, something else occurred, which meant that we needed another service, which was the visit from a lymphedema nurse. The point is that because of the fluid, which sits at the bottom of your stomach, a lot of swelling, which would otherwise be disposed of, is building up around your legs. And so she needed specialized stockings to make sure that she was as comfortable as possible. Ironically, those stockings, handmade in Japan, arrived 2 weeks after she died. But it was a service that would have certainly benefited her. We got to April, and Maureen now was not having any fluid drain. She'd been out at the start, it was brilliant. She was getting a litre of fluid out every 3rd day and every 2nd day. Obviously uncomfortable, but by that time, in April of 2024, she had to go in again to try and flush the drain. They attempted to flush the drain, that failed, so they could do no more for her. And as soon as a place became available in a local hospice, which catered for inpatients, she was transferred there. She survived another 23 days, and then sadly she died. But the lessons that I learned from all of this, first of all, do not rely on good communication among the various services. Oh, and I forgot one. She fell one day and we had to get an emergency ambulance because nobody else could have lifted her, given the condition that she was in at the time. So find your first point of contact and try as far as possible to get them to do the heavy lifting. Because if you're phoning around different services trying to find out who's doing what and when, you could be on all sorts of a goose chase. The second thing is the importance of continuity of service. We had to work very hard to find enough of the district nurses who had the skill to do the job properly in terms of the draining, and for others to come in. Eventually, because Maureen was practically immobile, she also had a team coming in from the day hospice to wash her on a daily basis, because I couldn't manage that. She was so frail, and I think if I had tried, I might have broken her, if you know what I mean. So for all of those reasons, it's good communication, good continuity of service, and finally, make sure that the preferences of the patient are at the forefront of everything which is done, because and I don't mean this disparagingly, but people coming in to care for them, it's not the same as you caring for them. They perhaps don't know her, they don't have her at the center of their thoughts. So it's very important to ensure that they make it clear to them that this is what the patient wants, this is what the patient needs, and can they provide that service to the best of their ability? Because if they don't do that, then the patient is going to suffer. It was a very stressful 20 months for both of us. And as I said at the start, for me, I know the way the machine works. And it was very, very stressful. For those of you who don't have that advantage, it can be very difficult. And that's why you really do need to latch on to someone you can trust to be your primary contact. Because, as I say, they can then do the heavy lifting. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ray. Thank you for sharing those insights. It was very, very, very moving for me to hear that. And, my wishes are with you. And we've all got to agree that, this has been a great insights into the caring sessions. I mean, I've learnt a lot as well, and I can take a lot away from this. I'm just going to ask Jane, is there any questions